My birthday is the day after this video comes out, so I wanted to share with you 5 big slow living life lessons I learned in year 28. I've got my cinnamon roll coffee all brewed and ready to go. I hope you have also grabbed yourself a cup of coffee or something good, because we're going to be sitting down and chatting, and it's going to be an interesting one. I'm going to try to be as succinct as possible, but let's see how this goes. So I just want to start this off by saying I had no expectations for year 28. I'm not the kind of person who has expectations for years, ages, birthdays, things like that, but so much has happened in this past year. I'm absolutely mind blown about it. I feel like I'm a completely different person than I was just last year, and this year hasn't even finished yet. So it's been really, really big. I've learned such huge lessons, and I feel like it's something that I really want to share with you all because, I don't know, I just feel like it's something really big and it's worth sharing, and I hope you're able to take what I mentioned in today's video and run with it, go as far as you can with it, because I think it's going to be for the best, especially for your slow living journey. So the first life lesson I learned this year is boundaries mean nothing if you're not sticking to them, you're not being firm with them. I learned this the hard way, of course, but late last year I started to notice that my boundaries were being broken very frequently, and I was pretty much allowing it to happen, and a lot of people and situations were making me uncomfortable because I can tell that my boundaries were being broken, and I wasn't doing anything about it because in the recent years, I've been known to be a people pleaser, so I was allowing other people to feel comfortable at the expense of my comfort, and it just wasn't a good feeling. It was also very contradictory and hypocritical because I feel like I talk about boundary setting a lot on my platform, and I wasn't actually implementing it and sticking hard to it in my personal life. So earlier on this year, I made a mental note to myself that I was going to stick to my boundaries, 100%, no budging, and I knew it was going to be hard, and it was hard, but it was absolutely worth it. And the reason why it was hard is because, of course, people pleasing is a lot easier for people pleasers, so it's easier to allow other people to feel comfortable and break your own boundaries so that, other people don't feel uncomfortable. But it was absolutely worth it, and I started to notice that the more and more I set expectations and stayed firm with my boundaries with other people and in situations, it became a lot easier. And now I'm at a point where it's very easy for me to stay firm, and it's such a great feeling to come to that moment. It's a lot of progress. You can feel that progress. You can feel the confidence building. You can feel the power kind of coming back to you, and it's such a great feeling because now you're in this area where your boundaries are not being broken, and I think the first step of not having your boundaries broken is being able to stick up for yourself. So it's an overall great feeling, and I feel like I've done that the best, the most successful in this year, and I'm hoping that I can continue to do that in following years. The second life lesson I learned is considering what is worth your energy. And I have asked myself this question so many times this year. It's almost like a habitual thing where I'm constantly asking it to myself, and I feel like I'll get better with it. But I've been asking myself, is it that serious? It's such a good question for someone who has historically been known to be pretty aggressive, pretty confrontational, pretty much in your face. And I know that's going to be surprising to a lot of people who hear that. But yeah, I was 100%, 110% that person, unfortunately. And I look back at past me, and I think past me was always looking for validation, always looking for approval. And that validation was particularly validation of my intelligence. I wanted to let everybody know that I knew what was going on. I am smart. I'm smarter than everyone else almost. And it's just, I'm not sure where that whole thing came about, but that's definitely where I was in the past. And it would start a lot of arguments. It would start a lot of tension and a lot of awkward moments. And I started to notice that I was also oversharing, and there's nothing wrong with oversharing, but for me, you have to be careful who you're oversharing with, especially if you're in a group of people that perhaps they're not the best people to be oversharing to, and then your information gets spread across and misinterpreted and skewed and stuff like that. But in the long run, all of those things were just not a good place to be in and not a good mindset to be in. So I started asking myself so many times this year, is it that serious? This can be for, interactions with people. It can be interactions in huge social events. It can be interactions in small social events, meetings, things like that. It's just me kind of checking in with myself and letting myself know that I don't have to put my energy into this 100%. I can step back. I can be the listener in this situation. I can be the observer in this situation. I can not be the center of attention. Nobody needs to hear every single word that I have to say. It's not that serious. Things don't need to escalate. I think escalate is a huge word here. I feel like I was always escalating things, even the littlest things, for no reason. And I've learned this year that it's really not necessary. It's really not serious. It's fine. We can chill out a little bit, and by we, I mean me. And I've also noticed that Ian, my husband, we've been together for a really, really long time, so he has actually told me that he's noticed that I've become a lot more chill, a lot more relaxed, and a lot less angry. So I think that's a good sign. And a lot of it has to do with this exact question that I asked myself. Is it that serious? More often times than not, it's not that serious. And it's also helped in like the workplace when I would get an email that would otherwise really upset me, or I'll have a really subtle like exchange in a meeting that would set me off and things like that. So it has definitely helped me in overall like contentment, overall state of joy, to not take things too seriously and not have to invest so much time and energy into every single thing that happens ever. Okay, life lesson number 3 is finding comfort in discomfort. So if you've seen recent vlogs over the past, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 years, basically when I moved out to another state and to a larger home, in those vlogs, I am very clearly uncomfortable. I have a lot of anxiety. I have a lot of worries, and it's about things that don't even exist. And, that all comes in the territory of having anxiety. But I learned this year, and I think a particular moment this year is when I did an in-person speaking event. Before that event, I was extremely anxious. I was extremely nervous, and I knew about the event months in advance. So this anxiety sitting at the pit of my stomach was there for months. And I was getting really frustrated with myself because I hate feeling this. Of course, it's not a great feeling to feel anxious all the time. And particularly, it feels like I'm being held hostage by my anxiety in moments where I don't necessarily need to be that anxious. Once again, is it that serious? And for this in-person speaking event, I ended up working really hard leading up to the actual event, thinking about ways to shift my perspective and to find little tidbits, little nuggets of comfort within the discomforting kind of experience or soon-to-be experience, so that I can find a way to get through this experience without feeling so anxious all the time. And it really worked. I found things that made me feel like this is not that big of a deal. This is not going to like ruin your life. In fact, this is an amazing opportunity, and change is an amazing opportunity. And it's something to be grateful about. It's something to appreciate when change and newness come along. In these videos like this and slow living and all of my slow living videos, I'm always talking about making changes. I'm always talking about opportunities to grow. And so why are these things, such as this in-person speaking event, making me anxious when in fact this is exactly what you want? And so making that perspective shift inside of me did wonders. I lost so much anxiety leading up to that event, and I'll be honest with you, the day of the event, I thought I would be like sweating. I sweat a lot when I'm anxious, but I thought I would be sweating from head to toe, and it was a summer day too, but no, I was actually really, really great. I was confident. I felt good. I felt comfortable. Even during the actual event where I was on a stage and I had a mic and, there were other people, I felt really good. And it was all because of that perspective change. It really did such a great thing for me. And I took that same sort of like perspective shift reflecting exercise that I did, and I started implementing it to all of the other different things that I had going on for the remainder of the year. The year isn't over yet, but what has happened so far this year, and it has worked every single time. I also ask myself, is it that serious? And it has worked so good. I am so excited to say that because I've been so anxious over the past few years, and it's definitely in my latter 20s where I've been feeling this. I feel like I had a lot more carefree energy, and I had a lot more confidence when I was younger, where I just didn't even have the time or notice any sort of form of anxiety. But now it's just something that is the norm for me. And while that is just something that it is what it is in some circumstances, there are other circumstances where I can take control, and this perspective shift has been able to let me do that. By the way, if you were curious about the coffee creamer, the cinnamon roll one, it's from Califia. It's a giant bottle. I've had it for months and I still have, so highly recommend. It's very cinnamony if you like that. Okay, the next life lesson is unlearning the concept that balance equals 50-50. Now, if you look at it from a very plain sense, we look at the scales, we look at balance, we consider balance, and balance always means 50-50. Of course, that makes sense. It's balanced, right? But that's not always the case in life. And in life, certain situations don't always require a flat 50-50. There are some instances that require 80-20. There are some instances that require 60-40. You get the point. And when I started looking at life in that way, particularly in so many different moments that I've had throughout this year, I started to feel a weight come off of my shoulders. I think it's because I was trying so hard to keep the balance of 50-50 always, even though that was probably not the applicable percentages that I needed to work with at the time, that I would put so much effort into whatever it is that I needed to make the balance, and it would exhaust me, or it would drain me, or it would make me anxious. And now I look at things in a much more fluid way. I first look at things and think, does this need 50-50, or maybe it needs a different percentage? And once I figure out what the particular situation needs, then I will start working from there. I can use the example of the podcast that my husband and I started this year, which has been such an amazing experience. But in the beginning, I thought it would be 50-50 in terms of like filming, creative, sitting down and chatting, that being 50%, and then admin, editing, all of the technical work stuff being 50%. And it makes sense, right? It makes sense to think that that should be 50-50 because you would think those things are equally important, and that's what makes a 100, so that it makes perfect balance. It makes everything complete. However, I started to notice that the creative part, the filming part, needed a little bit more energy and effort and time and consideration because Ian is not comfortable creating content. He's not a content creator, and this is his first time ever creating content. This is his first time sitting in front of a microphone and having a conversation that he knows is going to go out into the public. And so I needed to put more time and energy into making him comfortable and making us comfortable as podcast co-hosts chatting together to ensure that that part, and I think is the most important part, feel really good. And so when I started to look at it from that perspective, things got a lot less stressful because now I didn't feel like I needed to up my game with my admin and editing and stuff like that. I can be a little bit more easeful in this area and turn this into maybe 40% or 30% and turn this side, the creative filming side and the comfort side that I needed to work with Ian, into a more of a 60-70% side. And it has worked. It has worked. We have monthly check-ins, and now I feel like even though it technically looks like this, it still comes together as 100%. It feels balanced. It feels good. And so that's just one example of many examples, right? We can look at it in any sort of life situation, whether it's a project or something even bigger than that. Maybe it's a big life change, right? But if we're able to be a little bit more flexible in the way that we look at life in terms of balance, and I do think that balance is very important, then I think a lot of weight gets lifted off from us. And the last life lesson is a little bit newer on the list, so I hope I'm able to encapsulate it well enough, but it is that your job can be your job, and your work, your creative work, and your purpose can be separate from that. I think it's a big reminder, particularly to myself, but to other creators who are watching this, that especially in 2023, we have been led to believe that you haven't really made it and you haven't really been successful in life if you haven't been able to take your work, your creative work and purpose, and fuse it into your job. A lot of TikTokers, I would say in particular, who have been able to do that in a matter of months have really made it seem like we are failures if we haven't been able to do it. And I've been creating content since I've been creating content since 2016, and I have not turned my creative endeavors into a full-time job since then. And I do sometimes look at myself and think of myself as a failure because I haven't been able to do that. But this year in particular, I've come to realize that it's okay if that doesn't happen anytime soon, or if it doesn't happen ever. Because I do have a job, I do have a 9-to-5 job, and I've had jobs. I've had so many jobs over the course of however many years it was since 2016, and I've still always been able to pursue my creative endeavors, my art and projects and things like that. And unfortunately, because of this pressure nowadays, where we feel like we need to mesh the two together, we start monetizing and we start linking and we start turning every single bit of our creative endeavors into something that we can make money off of. And I think in my personal experience, I have lost so much of my creativity because of that. And that's not great. That's detrimental to my purpose, my creative work in reality. So it's not absolutely necessary. And if you are able to achieve that, that's inspiring, that's aspiring. And I still would love to have that happen eventually for me. But I'm okay with also just having a job right now, doing my job, doing that job well, and on the side, having my creative endeavors. Right now, perhaps my job takes up 60 or 70% of my day, and then my creative endeavors take up about 30-20% of my day, or whatever percentages I said. And perhaps there'll be a little bit more balance as the years go on. We'll find out. We'll see. But in the meantime, it's okay. I don't have to feel bad about it. You don't have to feel bad about it. And if it never ever happens, it's still okay. You can still pursue both things. You can still have a job. You can still be creative and have your hobbies and your endeavors on the side and still function, still have a great experience in life, and still be happy. It's totally fine. And I'm so relieved that I'm able to say that now and not feel the pressure and not feel the shackles of, I need to monetize my work. I need to monetize this all the time so that I can make a dime, so that I can quit my 9-to-5 and I can just do this all the time. It's actually quite relieving to say that I don't need to do that. And it opens up a lot more energy for me to actually be creative. All right, y'all. So I tried doing this video, I'm not even kidding, 30 times. This is the 30th attempt, and I think it's going to be the last one because my battery is now officially dying on my camera. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, these are big, big things. Perhaps you'll notice it now, perhaps you'll notice it later, but I do hope you're able to take at least one of my life lessons from year 28 and run with it. And please let me know if something resonated with you in this video, because it has really changed my life for the better. It has altered my life for the better, and I'm so appreciative of these lessons that I've learned. It's humbling. It makes me so excited for future me. I'm actually looking forward. Wow, did not expect myself to tear up, but I'm really looking forward to what future me looks like. And once again, I'm not the kind of person that kind of like sets expectations for ages, so I have zero expectations for year 29, but I'm just still looking forward to all of the growth and all of the amazing things that are going to happen. I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much if you made it through this entire video. Again, chat with me in the comments, or if you feel more comfortable DMing me on Instagram, I know a lot of you like to do that, please feel free. I'm gonna let you go here, and I will talk to you in next week's video.